It's Doodlebud. I finally got my laser systems all set up. We have the xTool S1 and now the F1 in the back here. I had this before at my old place. Since I moved, I am in a real shanty of a shack. It is absolutely terrible, but I managed to get a little bit of a workspace going on. I got some projects. I hit record, well at least I thought I did, because I had to do my first one. Since we moved, I've been cutting the grass, taking care of the front, and I've been noticing not everyone picks up after their dog. So I went down to the dollar store. These were, I think these were $2. Yes, $2. Had a little chain at the top. Got rid of that and made up this little graphic. Gonna put this on the front lawn. Now, instead of just complaining, I thought I'd also provide a solution. You can see here, I included a little hole. That is to fit this dowel pin. Of course, I forgot to account for the kerf, so it's a sloppy fit. I'll have to glue it. But what this is meant to do, hold a roll of baggies. So if someone happens by our yard and they go, oh, well, I don't have a bag. Hey, man, I got you covered. Nobody likes poo on their shoe. Here's a bag. Do what you got to do. I got the scrap piece of wood kicking around. I need to have a stake to drive this into the ground. So let's just cut that real quick. That was one thing down. Next thing I want to do is engrave these. These are the shutoff cutters for some water mains for the hot and the cold. There's no notification on there what this panel is for. We have some tenants. I want them to know this is where you go. You pop this cover off if there's a problem and we're not here. So I'm going to use the xTool F1 just to put a graphic on here to show cold water and hot water shut off. So all I have to do is go up here, change it from the S1, go to the F1, I switch. Now it's ready to go. And the neat thing is I can open up a project. So with the new version they have of the XCS, I can work on stuff offline. I could do this before, but it just seems much easier now. So I was getting stuff ready. I can work on it while I'm not near a machine whatsoever, get my file ready, play around with it, get all the details, and it took maybe 5 minutes. There we go, we're ready to go. I just gotta pop this into the X1 and I can start engraving. I have everything where I want it on the machine. I come over to the software, I hit process, everything looks good. A nice new feature is they do have an estimated time, so you can play with settings, and sometimes you realize you have a method that's gonna take 10 times longer than it should. This way you can see what the process time is gonna be. So let's get it started. So hopefully this saves a potential catastrophe. Let's get on to the next thing I gotta do. So the wife has all these spice jars in these bins. The labels are right there, but you have to pull them out to see what it is. Wouldn't it be nice if all the names were on top? This is the perfect deal for that. It's gonna be so quick because of the Galvo laser here. On the plastic, I use the infrared. This here, I'll use the blue laser and we'll power through these. So if you're new to xTool and haven't really used this before, what I quickly did is I drew a circle. I measured the lid and just did a circle the same diameter. I set that to sort of a dummy layer. It's not going to output. Then I did the text, got it set up where I like it, adjusted the settings. Now you can also have a user-defined material or use the reference library, and it is full of items that are on there. So if you're unsure of your settings, they have a massive reference library. Pick the closest one. So that was just a mere couple seconds, and that turned out lovely. So I'm just going to do the rest. I might actually turn the power up just a little bit. So that's the last batch of the spice jars. Next up, I have some coasters I want to do for some folks at my office. So I have 2 coasters for each person. One is a caffeine lover. The other one is huge into heavy metal music. I made my graphic. Actually, this one I just purchased it. I think it was a whopping $1, maybe $1.50. I could make this myself, but for $1.50, I can't do it any quicker. I'll spend the $1.50, support someone. You can go on and select the settings. There's a drop down to do it, and then you just play with your framing. So what I do over here is I center where I want the coaster to be, and then you can do a live preview of exactly where the text is. You can do rectangular, get everything set up. I put a little stop here, so I know how far over to move it, and then I just adjust it by eye, and I'll let it rip. That was under a minute, and that's looking pretty good. Here is the next coaster. If you know her, this is completely her personality. Just did a quick preview. I think that's looking pretty good where everything's at. Let's let it rip. When you're aligning things, one thing I like to do is just use the rectangle first sometimes. So then you can eyeball things, get the edges exactly where you want. You can make a rectangle also just a little bit smaller than your workpiece, and then just align everything in the software. That way you can, it's pretty easy to see. If you leave like a 2mm border around, sometimes that will help with aligning things. Let's give this one a look. That's looking absolutely fantastic. If you come over here, the total time on this was 50 seconds. So if you have a batch of these to do, let's say there's something custom, this would be something great for realtors. You know, you move into your new house, or the mortgage broker that got you the mortgage, congratulations, all that type of stuff. You can have a custom coaster, to give to your client. On the back, maybe you put your contact information. That way it's there. And just something nice and custom like that. Very unique and thoughtful. Doesn't cost a lot. And if you have an F1, you can bang these out pretty quick. So you can probably make some good money doing this. The first coaster is done. Metallica is one of his favorites. I paid for that, and I found some text that's pretty close to what they have on the album cover. Now for the other ones, I didn't need to invert them because of the type of text I was doing. This one I should have inverted. It still looks good. He won't know the mess up, and I think he'll just be excited either way. But yes, good idea to invert this particular graphic. For this one, I would use my rotary, but I can't find the jaws since my move. I think they're still in my storage locker, so I have this sort of set up like here. I'm going to first do a layer with the blue, and then it's going to pass by with the infrared. I find that does a lovely cleanup job. I have one last thing I want to do before we wrap up today. I got this new pocket knife. I took out the blade, and I'm going to try to put a fake Damascus pattern into this knife. Before I do that, let me show you something. If you have a previous xTool system, laser, or a vinyl cutter, they have a promotion going on. If you want to upgrade, they'll give you credit for your existing system without having to return it, which can go towards the purchase of a new machine. All the details will be down there below to answer all your questions. There'll be a link. Check it out. Let's try out this knife. I'm going to show you start to finish how I try it. I got the pattern, and I went ahead of time and I tested it on cardboard. You're not seeing it very well here, just to see how it looks. I thought that's going to look okay. The challenge I have here is we have this nice shiny part, but then we have this part. It's a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I thought I should tape this off so I don't engrave on there. And to test that, I put some black tape on here, just black electrician's tape. I'm going to be running the IR laser and engraved on there. And I thought that was going through, but it's actually not. It's not going through. It looks like it's blocking the laser. So what I'll do is I'll mask that part of the blade off, get things ready, and I'll show you how I'm going to try to do this. So what I did here is I taped the blade onto the cardboard, plus it masks off the areas I don't want to be engraving. I put a little wedge, which is some paper underneath. That way the blade is flat. It's not at an angle. And I just have the framing on, so I'll just put the blade about where I want it in the middle of the pattern, where I sort of like the pattern. And we will over engrave, but that's okay. I don't care if there's excess that happens here. We just want the knife to be fully engraved. I don't have to worry about exact precision of the pattern. And now let's set the settings. And the great thing, you go into the xTool website, there's all the different materials. You can search for it. You just enter it up on the top here. You can do this in the app as well. But I brought up the stainless steel. You change the type that you want to do. As you can see on the screen, we're doing a bitmap engraved. If you're going to do a scoring or something like that, different types, you can change what you're going to do. So now it tells us to put it on the red laser, which is the 2 watt. We'll run it at 50% power, and it's got all the settings down here as well. Let's go into the app. Punched in the settings, processed it. Everything's looking really good. Going to take about 6 minutes. I'll hit the button and show you how it turns out. Fingers crossed. So what I've done here, actually I cropped the pattern down a little bit just to save time. I have the framing on. I put the blade right where I want it. We'll have a little excess engraving over the edges, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Only what matters is it gets on the blade. Let's give this a try. A moment of truth. That's looking not too bad. Let's just take it out. I thought maybe I'll run it again just in case. And oh, actually that's interesting. We have a bit of a gold we have like a gold Damascus pattern to it. That looks pretty funky. I wonder if the tape protected the sides or if it blew through it. I actually stopped the job right away because the setting, again, they don't have every single material, but the initial setting, it was way too light. So I did crank it up. My tape caused, let's get some focus. My tape caused a little bit of a shadow. I have to be a little more mindful, but that's kind of neat. What I'm going to do now is, of course, I'll just flip it over, do the other side. This is on there, so I don't know how that's going to turn out. But I'll tape it, do a better job again, click the go button on the other side, and call that good enough. Something I'm going to do on this go around is just really check the focus, making sure the blade is level. So I'm going to move it around and just see if the dot separation appears. I can see maybe up here, I can see the dots separate versus here. They seem more to be overlapping. So I might just adjust the blade a little bit just to make sure everything's flat and I'm getting the best possible engraving. So here is the finished product. The precise masking job there did pay off. You can tell that's not real Damascus, obviously, but I think that looks kind of cool. Neat looking blade now. We did a bunch of stuff. We did some coasters. We did some water bottles. I don't have it here, I already installed it, but we had those plate covers for the water shutoff. You could do this with your light switches. If you have a cool paint job or a wallpaper, something like that, you could engrave these to match it or put silly things on there, whatever you want to do. If you've got a kid's room, you can put spaceships, whatever you want to do on there. And then we also made this sign here using the S1 down below. Hopefully that, will be the end of me having to pick up other dogs' poop on my yard. So hopefully people get the message there, have some fun. Nice thing is I've been able to use everything with just using the XES software. A while ago when it first came out, it was sort of lackluster. They have massively improved it. These are the settings here if you want quick reference that I used on that blade. Obviously you want to get a blade, do a bunch of testing, dial it in. You can do one of those grids to know the different powers, and then you have a lot more confidence. But they have the auto settings for all the different materials. There's so many materials. They've done a ton of testing, and you can just switch back and forth even for image processing. Rarely do I have to go outside of XCS anymore. I can just bring the image in and do what I need to do as far as tracing it, turning it into a vector, whatever I got to do. Most of the stuff I can just do in here now. So this is the cool thing I like about xTool is they understand all the stuff we have to go through. The number one thing people always ask, well, what's your settings? What's your settings? You just drag and drop, put the settings in, they got you covered. Even different colored water bottles they've really put a lot of effort into it. So I've really been enjoying using, whether it's the F1, the S1, the other units that I've used before as well. Super pleased. The software was the Achilles heel. They've really fixed that a lot now as well. So I'm really happy with it. If you haven't ever clicked the little button down there that says subscribe, it'd be cool if you did that. Until then, we'll catch you next time.